I need to tell someone what I did, and you're going to think I'm terrible, but there's something about faking orgasms that nobody understands. It's not just about lying to your partner. It's about the trap you build around yourself, brick by brick, until you're living in a prison of your own design and you can't remember how to tell the truth anymore. My husband won't sleep in the same room as me now. He's been on the couch for 3 weeks, and before that, he spent 4 nights at his brother's place. When I walk into a room, he walks out. When I try to talk to him, he holds up his hand like I'm physically hurting him just by speaking. And everyone who knows, which is basically everyone now because his sister has a big mouth, thinks I'm the villain. They think I'm cruel, heartless, that I destroyed a good man for no reason. But they don't know why I did it. They don't know what it's like to be 23 years old, in your first serious relationship, and so desperate to be the cool girlfriend who's effortlessly good at everything that you start performing instead of participating. They don't know about the shame that comes with not being able to finish, the fear that you're broken somehow, the absolute terror that if you admit the truth, he'll leave you for someone less complicated. If I don't tell this story, you'll never understand why I made the choices I made. But once you know what I know, you'll see why keeping the lie going felt safer than risking everything on the truth. The worst part? I was good at faking it, really good. And that's what makes this whole thing so much worse. I met Daniel when I was 23 and he was 25. I was working at a coffee shop while finishing my degree, and he came in every Tuesday and Thursday, always ordering the same thing: medium coffee, black, and whatever pastry I recommended. He started asking for my recommendations specifically, even when other baristas were free. Within a month, he asked me out. Daniel was everything I thought I wanted. Stable job in accounting, close with his family, had a solid group of friends he'd known since high school. He wasn't flashy or dramatic, he was steady. Safe. After a string of guys who treated dating like a casual hobby they could drop whenever something better came along, Daniel felt like winning the lottery. Our first time having sex was nice. Comfortable. He was attentive, kept asking if things felt good, clearly wanted me to enjoy myself. And I did enjoy parts of it: the closeness, the intimacy, the feeling of being wanted. But I didn't finish. I didn't even get close. This wasn't unusual for me. I'd only had 2 previous partners and I'd never had an orgasm with either of them. I could get there on my own, but with someone else. Something about the pressure, the performance of it all, the awareness of another person watching and waiting, it created this mental block I couldn't get past. But when Daniel looked at me afterward with this hopeful, vulnerable expression and asked, "Was that good for you?" I panicked. I saw this moment stretching out in front of me where I'd have to explain that no, it wasn't quite right, and then we'd have to have this whole conversation about what I needed and what wasn't working. On our first time together, when everything was still new and fragile. So I smiled and said, "It was amazing." His face lit up like I'd given him the best gift in the world. He pulled me close and kissed my forehead and said, "I was so nervous, I really wanted it to be good for you." And just like that, the lie was born. I told myself it wasn't really a lie. I'd enjoyed the experience overall, even if I hadn't finished. And next time would be different. Next time I'd be more relaxed, more comfortable with him, and it would happen naturally. I just needed to not put pressure on myself. Except next time I felt even more pressure. Because now Daniel thought he knew what worked. He did the same things, touched me the same ways, and looked so pleased with himself that I couldn't bring myself to course correct. And when the moment came where I should have been building towards something real, I found myself mimicking what I thought it should look like instead. I did my research, you have to understand. I watched videos, read articles, paid attention to what it supposedly looked like. I made sure my physical responses were believable, the breathing, the sounds, the muscle tension. I timed it right, made sure it seemed natural within the flow of things. And Daniel never questioned it. Why would he? I was giving him every signal that he was doing everything right. The worst part about what happened isn't that I lied. It's that the lie made our relationship better in almost every other way, and that's something I've never admitted to anyone until now. After I started faking it, Daniel became more confident, more affectionate. He'd grab me in the kitchen and kiss me deeply, whisper things in my ear about how he couldn't wait to get me alone later. His friends would make jokes about us being newlyweds even before we were engaged, about how we couldn't keep our hands off each other. And I loved it. I loved being in a relationship that everyone envied. I loved that his family adored me, that his mom would pull me aside and tell me how happy I made her son. I loved the Instagram comments on our pictures, relationship goals, and find someone who looks at you the way Daniel looks at her. The sex itself wasn't bad. It just wasn't what he thought it was. I enjoyed the closeness, the intimacy, the feeling of being desired. Those things were real even if the finale wasn't. 6 months in, Daniel started hinting about moving in together. A year in, we got engaged. By 18 months, we were planning a wedding. During all of this, I kept telling myself I'd come clean eventually. Tomorrow, next week. After we got through this stressful period at work. After the holidays. After the wedding planning calmed down. But there was never a right time. And the longer I waited, the higher the stakes became. I remember the night he proposed. We were at this restaurant where we'd had our third date. He was sentimental like that. He'd arranged for the waiter to bring out dessert with the ring hidden inside this elaborate chocolate sculpture. His hands were shaking when he got down on one knee. "You make me happier than I ever thought possible," he said. "Every single day with you is better than the last. I love making you happy. I love that we're so good together in every way. I want to spend the rest of my life making you feel the way I do right now." I said yes, of course, and I meant it. I did want to marry him. I did love him. But that phrase, good together in every way, stuck with me. Because our sex life was one of the foundations he thought our relationship was built on. He thought we had this incredible physical connection. He'd told his friends we were perfectly compatible. His brother had made a toast at our engagement party about how you could tell we were meant to be by the way we looked at each other, like the bedroom must be on fire. Everyone laughed. Daniel squeezed my hand and grinned at me, and I felt the walls of my trap closing in a little tighter. We got married on a Saturday in October, 2.5 years after we started dating. The wedding was beautiful. I cried during my vows, and they were real tears from real emotions. I loved this man. I loved the life we were building. The wedding night was fine. Good, even. Daniel was tender and romantic, kept saying my wife like he couldn't believe it was real. And when the moment came, I performed my usual routine, and he held me after and said, "I'm the luckiest man alive." Just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, we started trying for a baby. This was about a year into our marriage. We'd always talked about wanting kids, and Daniel was ready. He had spreadsheets, actual spreadsheets, tracking my cycle, optimal timing, prenatal vitamin schedules. He was so excited, so all in on becoming a father. And suddenly, sex wasn't just sex anymore. It was procreational, medical. There was pressure to perform on specific days to make sure everything was timed right. Daniel would come home from work on my fertile days with this determined expression, and I'd think, here we go again. The faking became harder during this period. Not physically harder. I had my routine down pat by then, but emotionally harder. Because every time I faked it during our trying window, I felt like I was lying about something even more important than just my own pleasure. Like I was bringing a hypothetical child into my web of deception. But I couldn't stop. The lie was too big now, too foundational. Admitting the truth would mean admitting I'd been lying for 3.5 years. It would mean Daniel would question every intimate moment we'd ever had. Our entire sexual history would become suspect, so I kept going. And month after month I wasn't getting pregnant. After 8 months of trying, Daniel suggested we both get tested. Just to make sure everything was working properly, he said. No big deal, just being proactive. The tests came back fine. Both of us were perfectly fertile. The doctor said to keep trying, stay relaxed, these things take time. But I started wondering, could stress prevent pregnancy? Could your body somehow know you're living a lie and refuse to bring a child into it? I know that sounds ridiculous, but at 3 a.m, your mind goes to strange places. Daniel started buying books about conception. He cut out caffeine. He suggested we try different positions. I read that this one is better for cervical penetration, he'd say, showing me diagrams on his phone. I wanted to die every time he tried to optimize our sex life, because he thought he was building on an already solid foundation, but really, he was just creating more elaborate staging for my performance. Month 13 of trying was when things started to crack. We'd just finished. I'd done my usual thing, he seemed satisfied, and we were lying there in what should have been a peaceful moment. Daniel was rubbing my stomach, talking softly about baby names, and something inside me just broke a little. "What if it never happens?" I said. He propped himself up on one elbow. "It will, we just have to be patient. But what if the problem is something else, something we can't test for?" "Like what?" I almost told him then. I was so close. The words were right there, like maybe the problem is that I've been lying to you about sex for our entire relationship and my body is punishing me for it. But instead I said, I don't know, maybe I'm too stressed. He kissed my forehead. "Then we need to make sex fun again, take the pressure off." And he started planning this whole romantic weekend getaway to reconnect. Because of course he did. Because Daniel was a problem solver, and he thought the problem was just that we needed to relax and enjoy each other again. The weekend trip was to this bed and breakfast in wine country. Daniel had booked couples massages, made reservations at fancy restaurants, bought expensive wine. He'd packed lingerie he'd bought for me, nothing trashy, just pretty and romantic because that was Daniel. The first night there, after dinner and wine and a walk through the grounds, we had sex in this four-poster bed with actual rose petals on the sheets. Daniel had arranged for them. He'd planned this whole romantic production, and I gave the performance of my life. Multiple times, even. 'Cause he was trying so hard, and I loved him for it, and the guilt was eating me alive, but I didn't know how to stop the machine I'd set in motion years ago. Afterward, he held me and said, "This is what we needed, just us remembering why we're so good together." I started crying. Real tears, not performance tears. "Happy tears?" he asked, wiping my cheek. I nodded because I couldn't speak. Because they weren't happy tears at all, they were shame tears, guilt tears, trapped in a lie of my own making tears. But I let him think they were happy, because that was what I did. I let him think everything was fine. Everyone online thought I was fine, but privately I was starting to unravel. I'd post pictures from the trip, us holding wine glasses, me laughing at something he said, both of us looking ridiculously happy. The comments poured in, "You two are so perfect together. Marriage goals. When will you announce the baby news? You'd make such great parents." That last one felt like a knife every time. My best friend Melissa commented, "Get it, girl. That wine country magic." With a bunch of winking emojis. She didn't know we were trying. Nobody did except Daniel's parents, who asked about it constantly. "Any news yet?" His mom would say every time we saw her, her eyes dropping hopefully to my stomach. I smiled through it all. Posted my cute couple photos. Played the role of the happily married woman living her best life. But alone, I was Googling things like how to tell husband you've been faking, and is it too late to come clean about sexual stuff, and in my darkest moments, will my marriage survive this truth? I never clicked on the articles. Just typed the searches and then closed the browser, like even admitting I was considering it was too dangerous. The incident that changed everything happened on a random Tuesday, 14 months into trying for a baby. We're having dinner with Daniel's brother Marcus and Marcus's girlfriend Jen. Jen was 8 months pregnant, her first, unplanned, conceived apparently on the first try. She kept rubbing her belly and complaining about heartburn, and Marcus kept looking at her with this dopey expression of adoration. "So when are you two joining the club?" Marcus asked, gesturing at Jen's stomach. Daniel laughed it off. "We're working on it." "Well, work harder," Marcus said. He'd had 3 beers. "What's the holdup?" "You guys are at it like rabbits. Daniel told me your sex life is incredible." I felt my face burn. Daniel looked embarrassed but also pleased. Like yes, his brother was being inappropriate, but also wasn't it nice that everyone knew we were so compatible? Jen, who'd always been more perceptive, gave me a look. "Maybe they don't want to discuss their sex life over dinner, babe." "I'm just saying if the equipment works, use it," Marcus continued. "Unless." He looked between us with exaggerated concern. "Everything does work, right, because they have pills now if." "Everything works fine," Daniel said firmly. "We're just being patient." After dinner in the car, Daniel was quiet. Then he said, "I'm sorry about Marcus. He doesn't think before he talks." "It's fine." "It's not fine, our sex life is private." He reached over and took my hand. "But for what it's worth, he's not wrong. We are incredible together. That's not the problem." "Then what is?" The question came out sharper than I intended. He glanced at me, surprised. "I don't think there's a problem, it just takes time sometimes." "Right, time." I thought I was fixing things by keeping up the lie, but really I was building toward an explosion I couldn't see coming. A week later, Melissa came over for wine. She'd recently gotten out of a long-term relationship and wanted to vent. I was happy to listen, grateful for the distraction from my own mess. 3 glasses in, she said, "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course." "How did you know Daniel was the one? Like, what made you sure?" I thought about it. "He's steady, reliable, he shows up, he makes me feel safe." "What about the spark, the passion?" "That's there too," I said automatically. She gave me a look. "Is it though? Because you never really talk about that side of things. And I know you, when you're really into someone, you gush about everything." My chest tightened. "We're married." "It's different than the honeymoon phase." "Sure, but," she hesitated. "Okay, I'm going to say something and you can tell me to shut up if I'm out of line." "Okay. I've never once heard you talk about Daniel like you actually want to jump his bones. You talk about him like he's a really nice boyfriend you're grateful to have, not like your husband who you're wildly attracted to." I felt defensive. Not everyone needs to broadcast their sex life. "I'm not saying broadcast it. I'm saying I've known you for 8 years, and I've heard you talk about hookups with more enthusiasm than you talk about your husband." "That's not fair." "Isn't it, Emma? Be real with me." Are you actually happy, like fulfilled, or are you just comfortable? I should have laughed it off, changed the subject. But the wine and the stress and the guilt all combined into something volatile. You want to know the truth, I said. The truth is Daniel thinks we have this amazing, passionate, perfectly compatible sex life. And I've been faking orgasms for our entire relationship, every single time, for 4 years. The words hung in the air like smoke after an explosion. Melissa's eyes went wide. Every time, every single time. Holy shit, Emma. And then I started laughing. Horrible, slightly hysterical laughter. I'm so good at it, Mel, I should win an Oscar. He has no idea. Nobody does. Everyone thinks we're relationship goals and it's all built on this massive lie. Does he not? Mean, how does he not know? Because I make it believable. I've studied this. I know exactly what it should look like. But why would you keep doing that? And there it was, the question I'd been asking myself for years. Because by the time I realized it was a problem, it was too late to fix. How do you tell someone you've been lying about something that intimate for years? How do you take that back? Melissa was quiet for a long moment. Emma, you have to tell him. I can't. You have to, this is huge, he deserves to know. So I can destroy him, make him question our entire relationship, humiliate him, so you can actually have a real relationship, one built on truth. I shook my head. You don't understand, this would end us, he'd never forgive me. Maybe, but the alternative is living this lie forever. Is that really better? I didn't have an answer. I made Melissa promise not to tell anyone. She agreed, reluctantly, but I could see the judgment in her eyes. She thought I was a coward. She was probably right. For the next few weeks I tried to pretend the conversation hadn't happened. But it had planted something in my mind, a seed of inevitability. The lie wasn't sustainable. Eventually something would give. I just didn't realize how soon. We were at dinner with Daniel's family, his parents, Marcus and Jen, and his sister Amy. Jen had just had the baby, a girl named Sophie, and everyone was cooing over photos. Daniel's mom kept making pointed comments about how much she wanted more grandchildren, looking at us meaningfully. The baby talk was making me tense, and I was drinking wine faster than I should have been. Daniel noticed and gave me a questioning look, but I just smiled and refilled my glass. Then Amy, who was going through a divorce, said something that changed everything. You know what my therapist told me, she said. She was also several glasses deep. She said the worst thing about my marriage wasn't that we fought or that we wanted different things. It was that we were never honest with each other about the fundamental stuff. We performed our relationship instead of living it. Something about her words cut right through my wine haze. What do you mean performed? Daniel's mom asked. Like, we showed each other these edited versions of ourselves. I faked being okay with things I wasn't okay with. He pretended to be someone he wasn't. And we built this whole life on these performances, and then we woke up one day and realized we didn't even know each other. That's so sad, Jen said, bouncing Sophie. You need honesty in a relationship, even when it's hard. Daniel squeezed my hand. That's why I'm so grateful for Emma. She's always been completely herself with me. No games, no pretending. The irony was so thick I could choke on it. Not everyone is that lucky, Amy continued. Some people are really good at hiding things. You can live with someone for years and not know who they really are. I felt like she was speaking directly to me, even though she couldn't have known. But doesn't everyone hide parts of themselves? Marcus's girlfriend asked. Like small things, sure, but big things, deal-breaker things, that's different. Amy looked around the table. Could you imagine living with someone who was lying to you about something fundamental? Something that made you think your relationship was one way when it was actually completely different. I'd be devastated, Daniel's mom said. The betrayal of that, Daniel was nodding. Yeah, that's foundational dishonesty. That would be really hard to come back from. My heart was pounding. I excused myself to go to the bathroom. In the mirror, my face looked flushed from wine and panic. I ran cold water over my wrists, trying to calm down. This was fine. They were talking about Amy's marriage, not mine. Nobody knew. I just needed to get through dinner and go home. But when I came back to the table, the conversation had somehow veered into sex. I'm just saying, Marcus was telling his dad, you can tell when a couple has good chemistry. It shows in how they are together. Marcus, please, Daniel's mom said, but she was smiling. It's true, you can tell Daniel and Emma are on the same wavelength. You see it in the way they, okay, we're not discussing our son's sex life, Daniel's dad cut in, but Marcus wouldn't let it drop. I'm not being gross, I'm saying that kind of compatibility is rare. That's something to celebrate, right, Daniel? Daniel looked uncomfortable but also pleased. I mean, yeah, we're very compatible. The table erupted in teasing laughs and jokes. Someone made a toast to marital bliss in all its forms. Daniel was blushing but grinning. And I felt something inside me snap. I've been faking it, I said. The table went quiet. Everyone looked at me. What? Daniel said. The wine and the pressure and 4 years of lies all came pouring out. I've been faking orgasms. The whole time. Every single time. Since the very first time we had sex. You don't know what good chemistry we have because you don't actually know if I've ever enjoyed it the way you think I have. You could have heard a pin drop. Daniel's face went through about 5 different expressions in 3 seconds. Confusion, disbelief, hurt, and finally something that looked like horror. Emma, what are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that everyone keeps going on and on about how compatible we are, how great our sex life must be, and it's all based on a lie. You think we have this amazing physical connection, but you have no idea what you're doing because I've never told you the truth. His mom made a small sound of distress. Amy's eyes were huge. Marcus looked like he wanted to disappear. This is a joke, right? Daniel said quietly. You're drunk and making some kind of point about. It's not a joke. I've been lying to you for 4 years about all of it. He stood up so fast his chair scraped against the floor. I need air. He walked out of the restaurant. I stood to follow him, but his dad held up a hand. Maybe give him a minute, he said. His voice was gentle, but his eyes were disappointed. I looked around the table. Everyone was carefully not looking at me. I'm sorry, I said to no one in particular. I'm so sorry. I grabbed my purse and walked out. Daniel was standing by the car, hands on his head, breathing hard. Daniel, don't, he said without looking at me. Just don't. I need to explain. Explain what? That you've been lying to me about something incredibly intimate for our entire relationship. That every time I thought we were connecting, you were performing. That you did this in front of my entire family. I didn't mean to say it like that. I've been drinking and he finally looked at me and the hurt in his eyes was devastating. Was any of it real? When you said you loved making love with me when you seemed like you were enjoying yourself, was any of that true? Of course it was true. I do love being with you. You just what? You just lied about the most basic thing, for years. I didn't know how to tell you. It started as one little lie and then it got bigger and I couldn't figure out how to stop it without destroying everything. So you thought destroying it in front of my family was better? I didn't have an answer for that. He got in the car. I'm going to Marcus's, don't wait up. He left me there in the parking lot. I had to call an Uber to get home. That was 3 weeks ago. Daniel came back the next day to get clothes. He wouldn't talk to me, wouldn't look at me. He just packed a bag and left. His mom called me crying, asking how I could do this to her son. His dad sent a text saying they needed space to process. Amy sent a long message about how disappointed she was, how she'd looked up to our relationship. Melissa was more sympathetic but still seemed shocked. I told you to tell him, she said. But maybe not like that. Daniel moved back in after 4 days, but into the guest room. He'd come home from work, make dinner for himself, and eat it in front of the TV. When I tried to talk to him, he'd put in headphones. The worst part was the silence. Not angry silence, resigned silence, like he'd already given up on us. After a week of this, I cornered him in the kitchen. We have to talk about this eventually. What is there to talk about? He wouldn't look at me. About why I did it. About what we do now. About why you did it. He finally looked up, and there was something cold in his eyes I'd never seen before. You did it because you're a liar. You built our entire relationship on a lie. You let me think I was making you happy when really you were just tolerating me. That's not true. I wasn't tolerating you. You know what the worst part is. I told you things, vulnerable things. I asked you if things felt good because I actually cared about your experience. And you looked me in the eye and lied. Over and over. For years, how do I come back from that? How do I ever trust you again? We can go to counseling. We can work through this. He laughed bitterly. Counseling, right, so I can sit in a room and talk about how my wife thinks I'm so bad in bed that she had to fake it rather than tell me the truth. It wasn't about you being bad. It was about me, about my own issues with performance, and don't make this about your issues when you made it my reality for 4 years. You watched me thinking I was making you happy. You watched me tell my friends we were compatible. You let me believe something completely false about the most intimate part of our relationship. He walked away. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, he's been sleeping on the couch. He's polite but distant. He goes through the motions of living in the same space but treats me like a roommate he doesn't particularly like. I've tried everything. I've apologized. I've explained. I've cried. I've begged for a chance to make it right. He just looks at me with those cold, hurt eyes and says, I don't know if I can. His family isn't talking to me. Marcus's girlfriend asked if I'd ever actually loved Daniel or if that was fake too. Amy posted something on Instagram about authenticity and knowing when to walk away from toxicity. My own friends are split. Some think I did a terrible thing and Daniel deserves better. Others think he's being too harsh, that people make mistakes. But they don't know what it feels like to live in this house now. To see the man I love look at me like I'm a stranger. To know that I destroyed something good because I was too cowardly to be honest. The thing nobody wants to acknowledge is that I do feel guilty. Massively, crushingly guilty. But I also feel angry, which makes the guilt worse because how do I have the right to be angry? But I am. I'm angry that Daniel's response is to shut down completely instead of trying to understand. I'm angry that his family has made me into this villain without considering how hard it is to tell the truth when you're drowning in shame. I'm angry that we live in a world where women are supposed to perform pleasure and then get blamed when the performance goes on too long. I know that's defensive. I know I'm the one who messed up. But 4 years of faking didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened because I felt pressure to be a certain way. Because women's sexuality is so fraught with expectations and judgments that sometimes lying feels safer than being real. Not that any of that matters now. Last night, Daniel came home late. I was on the couch, he's claimed the bedroom now. I don't even try to sleep in there anymore. He looked at me for a long moment and I thought maybe he was finally ready to talk. Instead, he said, "I think you should stay at your mom's for a while." What? I need space, real space, not just separate rooms. I need to think about whether I can actually get past this, and I can't do that with you here. Daniel, please don't do this. I'm not doing anything. You did this 4 years ago when you decided lying was easier than being honest with me. It wasn't easier, it was torture. Every single day I wanted to tell you but I didn't know how. But you didn't tell me, that's the point. You chose the lie every single day for 4 years, you made that choice. He went to the bedroom and closed the door. I'm at my mom's now. She's trying to be supportive, but I can tell she's disappointed too. Everyone is disappointed. Everyone thinks I'm the bad guy, and maybe I am. But I need you to understand something. This isn't a story about a woman who faked orgasms just to be cruel. It's a story about how one small lie can become your entire life. About how fear can make you into someone you don't recognize. I loved Daniel. I still love Daniel. That was never fake, but I don't know if love is enough when the trust is gone. He texted me this morning, we should probably talk to a lawyer. I don't know if he means divorce or just separation. I don't know if it matters. Everyone who knows the story thinks they know who the villain is. And maybe they're right. Maybe I am terrible. Maybe I deserve everything that's happening. But I also know that the version of me who started faking it was 23 and scared and desperate to be perfect. And somewhere along the way, that scared girl became a woman living a lie she didn't know how to escape. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not even asking for understanding. I'm just telling you what happened. The real story. The one where nobody's completely innocent and nobody's completely guilty, and everything is just a mess of human weakness and fear and bad decisions that seemed reasonable at the time. I told him I faked it for years, and now he won't even sleep in the same room as me. And I don't know if we'll ever find our way back from this, but I also don't know if we should. Because how do you rebuild on a foundation that was never solid to begin with? How do you create something real when you've been performing for so long that you've forgotten what authentic even feels like? The truth is supposed to set you free, but sometimes it just burns everything down, and you're left standing in the ashes, wondering if honesty was worth the cost. I still don't have an answer.